Hi. I don't hear you. Unmute.
Mute. Is that it? Did I do it?
I can't hear you. Hold on. Let me see if I can help you.
It could be my computer. Let's see. I've had this trouble before, and I had to start my computer over.
I can't hear you. Did you put your volume on your computer, Jeanette?
Hang on, I'm going to test my computer. I'm sure it's my end.
Turn your volume up, maybe. Can't hear you. Is your volume on? You can. No, I can't hear you.
I'm going to turn off my computer and turn it back.
Let's see. Hold on. Why can't?
Future.
Okay. I saw.
Okay, coming back. Hold on one second.
Okay. Participants. Oh.
That work?
Can't hear you. You're connected to the audio.
This happened to me before. I'm going to try something else.
You have no sound. Oh, go where it says the mute bar. Do you see at the bottom the mute microphone on the bottom? Are you on a Mac?
Mm-hmm.
Go next to that and push that little arrow up and see if you could. You need to select a microphone. Do you have built-in microphone, internal microphone?
Mm-hmm.
And then select a speaker, built-in output, internal speaker.
Everything is working.
Okay.
It's working.
No problem. I think the problem is did you click on test speak? I see you. Did you test speaker and microphone? Can you do that? Click that. Switch to phone audio. Can you click that? What maybe that? Maybe click on audio settings and everything should be checked when you go to the settings. It says automatically join computer audio when joining a meeting at the bottom. Okay. The worst comes to worst, you'll go on your phone. Because you're there. Okay. Um, um,
I know. Hello, can you hear me?
Go back to Skype.
Okay. My daughter's helping me. I think it's the Skype.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Some reason it's not connected to the audio.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you now.
You do? Okay, I think it was going to Skype. Yay, we're in?
Oh my God, so great.
This is why it's good to go on early.
You know what? I'm going to tell you, you never know what the problem is. It's all, and I feel bad saying this, but when you leave it up to the computer, you can't control it always.
No, it has its own mind. And I'm so glad we came on early. Yay. I'm going to close the door here. She's helping my parents.
Oh my gosh.
All right. I have my flags in the background.
I saw them. I'm so happy for you. And I just texted some of the sorority girls and I said, if you didn't get the link, here it is. I just texted Leslie. She's like, great, I'm going on. So anybody that wants to go on.
Oh, great, wonderful.
You know what I mean? And I did hear from your friend Lois last night. Mm-hmm. So I sent Lois the link.
Oh, great. She's got a transgender child.
Oh, and you know who else texted me who seemed so nice, who said if I ever want her to do some speaking, Chris Shane.
No.
And then I have another friend. I sent it to. Her name's Mindy Freeman. She has a transgender child in Philadelphia. And we have a lot of mutual friends, but I was telling, she knows all about you, whatever. But I said, I just texted her. She's like, oh my God. And it resonated with me because she said she's worried about her daughter.
Yeah.
So I said, oh my gosh, Mindy, you got to come on. You'll love Jeanette. I mean, everyone knows Jazz's story, but also I think in a smaller forum, it's nicer to be able to
absolutely have that one-on-one connection with people. And I'm going to go through things really quickly in the beginning, just a lot of like personal stuff, like how Greg used to have a crush on me and would watch me at the synagogue on the high holy holidays and, you know, just some things. So I'm going to ramble because I don't want to go too long.
Yeah.
A lot of information very quickly. And then you can jump in and say, hey, you mentioned this, you mentioned that. Or if you want to, you can cut me off and ask a question at that point, whatever you want to do.
Exactly. So the way that we do it, I'm just putting Brenda Finbergen, who works with me at the JCC. Brenda, meet Jeanette. Brenda can't hear us. So that's what I usually do. So whenever I've had someone on, you know, after you do your little spiel, then you'll tell me when you also, maybe after you do your spiel, we could talk, it depends, you could talk about the pictures then. Hi, Brenda. Can we hear, oh, Brenda's muted.
Hi, sorry.
Your friend Jeanette.
Hi.
So we're just talking about how we're going to do this. And then, Jeanette, you tell me, oh, Jacob Barry's on. Is that your dad?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so glad your parents are on.
They made it. I did have a question. When I'm speaking, I actually have like woven into what I'm speaking about the pictures. So I like, my husband and I, we grew up in the same hometown, and then I'll be like, that's picture number one. And you can flash picture number one if you want to, because it goes along with the story.
Yeah, so Jeanette, and you'll tell me, so maybe when we start, I'm gonna say, because you're gonna do that well, I'm gonna first introduce you. It's gonna, I'm gonna give like a little blurb of what you gave me, a 2-minute blurb. And then I'm gonna say, why don't you start? And then immediately then I'll screen share. Is that what you want me to do?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And as I'm talking, I'll say picture number 1, and then since you said you can hear me, I'll comment on that picture a little bit.
Mhm.
In the beginning, I use a lot of pictures because that's the part of our lives that we don't share, like like the younger part, like right now from age 14 up, they've seen us on TV. But
Totally.
nobody really knows our backstory, which really ties to our Jewish roots.
Correct.
We grew up in a town, and our parents were both physicians, and we lived in the one little Jewish section, which I'm not going to get into that.
No,
But
of course not. But
the
listen,
boy next door, the nice Jewish boy next door.
totally, I love that. Exactly. So that's what we'll do. After I introduce you, I'm going to say to them, I'm going to screen share. I'm going to make you also, I'm going to be spotlighting you. So they're going to be seeing you. Now, it is 10:54 Jewish time. We give it to like 11:05 until people come on. Right, Brenda? It's
Correct.
listen, it is what it is. This is typical. But and then I will put in the chat, Jeanette. After we're speaking, I'll say, people have questions, please type it in the chat, and then I will ask you questions, and then we'll go from there. I do think you should, mention, the organization, if people want to follow the organization, which is great. If people, anything, that you feel, because you're doing some advocacy work, it's really important.
That in your questions, like, can you tell us, I know you started a foundation.
Yes.
Because actually a whole thing, I don't want to, like, I put it down to talk about in my story, but that's like a whole nother area. And I don't want it to be all me talking
No.
in the beginning.
And again,
add it to the questions. I think that'll be great. And then I can share a little bit about that.
right, I'll ask you the questions because I think that's really good. And then if I feel like you keep going and going and going, then I'll say, okay, that sounds great. Let me get to the swing to the next question. And a lot of times, like, the questions are what people want to ask. So it's really good. So when I ask you the questions, you know what I mean? How do you feel when Howard Stern talks about how much he loves the show? People, listen.
I don't know if you've heard him before, but he's pretty funny when it comes to the show. You wouldn't think he'd been watching I Am Chaz.
Right. So, but like, that's great. And we're getting your perspective, which is so great. And like, I talk to you like, even how do you feel when you go out to dinner and people are like, I think I know you. You know what I mean? And
feel free to put that in the questions. Like, add anything like that in. If you catch me off guard, not knowing the answer, I'll be like,
and there's really, like we talked yesterday or Friday, if there's something that someone asked you, now I usually preview the questions. It's not, the question will be, how's Jazz doing? And you know what, like anyone else during this pandemic, there's ups and downs and there's stuff. But there's certain things that you don't have to get into.
Yeah.
I know what the question will be. Are you doing a returning season? You know what I mean? And like you said, TLC, let's say we'll wait and see what's going to be.
Stay tuned. I think on the bio, it says we're in season 6.
Yeah.
I think it's my husband pointed that out. So you might somehow just say a completed season 6, or
okay.
we've done 6 seasons, because season 6 has ended a while ago. And
no, I'll put that.
Yeah, I just remembered that.
But they are also, if anyone wants to go back and see the seasons, they could go back and on TLC and watch
Discovery Plus. Now they have a whole streaming network. Hulu did have us on for a while. I think we're not on Hulu because Discovery now has their own streaming.
Yeah, Discovery Plus is like taken over. It's crazy.
Yeah. People are learning about us that didn't know about us because they have Discovery.
Correct.
All the 6 seasons are there, everything. So
right.
Like, people write to me, I didn't know about you. I just found you. I'm like, how did they find us? We aired a while ago. And then I remember we're streaming now. Ah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what's so great.
Okay.
We even do this Zoom. There'll be people that want to go back, and we did it with the show Unorthodox. We had one of the stars from Unorthodox, and then we were able to go back afterwards and go back to season 1.
Yeah, very nice. I'm sorry, I'm just putting up my notes because I realized I shut everything down on my computer.
It's up to you. Now, I'm going to start letting people in. You can mute yourself if you want, or because usually I will go on and I'll introduce you like at 5 after. You could stay unmuted, whatever. You'll see faces that you haven't seen in a long time. So I'm going to start letting people in. And if there's anything you need from me, just text me.
I'm not going to mute myself because I'm afraid I'm going to go dead again. Remember what happened? Like you couldn't hear me, so I'm still scared to touch it. I'm just going to keep quiet.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. If everyone wants to put their name next to their picture, that would really be great when we're going to be doing questions. So good morning. Hi, everybody. Hi, Lois. I'm glad you got the link.
Hi, Lois.
Yeah.
Love you.
That's so great. Cheryl's on. Okay. Yeah. And if you guys want to show your picture, that's great too. In that way, if you guys, once we ask questions, Jeanette will be able to see who you are and I'll be able to see. So yeah, let's see. And it's so great to have so many people on from all over. Jeanette, there's Sandy. She's on.
Oh, hi. Everybody. I feel like the Brady Bunch.
Yes.
It's
It's so great. Randy, there you are. Randy, Jeanette, there's Randy.
Hi. So nice to see you. I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies.
Oh, and you guys are in for such a treat. Jeanette's parents are on. So for everybody that's a fan of the show, we're going to love seeing your parents. Will they show their screen, Jeanette?
I think so. I mean, I see their name. My daughter is on. My other daughter.
Ari could tell them, Ari could show them how to show their screen.
Yeah, I don't know if they maybe wanted it like that, but
Yeah, I think they told me that they were going to share their screen.
No problem. I'm glad that they're on. This is great. And there's your parents.
Yay! Hey, stay. Ari, tell them to stay because we're going to ask them a question later and I need to see them.
Oh, they look adorable. There's your mom and dad, and your mom's hair is perfectly done. She looks adorable. Okay, that's great. And Ari, thanks for jumping on too.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, this is fabulous. Hi, Risa, all the way out in Long Island.
Hi, Risa.
Yeah. And
so touched to be sisters.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Jeanette, I want you to know that I'm a professor at a college, and watching your daughter's journey has been very helpful to me with my transgender students.
Oh, that's
So
wonderful.
I just wanted to share that with you, that it's been a connection I've been able to have and really understand some of my students that were struggling. So I thank you so much for putting the story up.
That's how we do this. We do this, people like you, and it's like you tell somebody, they tell somebody, and spread the word. And I know the importance of visibility.
Yeah, but just so you know, it's also for parents who might not have transgender children, but in my workplace, I still come in contact with so many of them, and it really helped me understand their struggle. So I really wanted to thank you for that. It's just another venue that you're reaching out to and helping.
Well, we try. We do the best we can do. And things like this I love because it's more personal and people can't ask me questions when I'm on the show. So I love doing this, and I thank you for having me.
we're so happy. And we have Mara on. Do you see Mara and Leslie?
Hi, guys.
Yeah,
It's like a SDT reunion.
like, I'll have to bring that up at the beginning.
Yes, this is wonderful.
Right.
I'm so grateful you're all here. Really touched.
Oh,
Getting like tingly. Thanks
I
for.
know. Yeah. Tracy, I want to introduce, there's Tracy Sussman. Jeanette, I work with Tracy at the JCC. She's my dear friend, and she's
Jeanette.
always
Nice.
so supportive of everything we do here. Lori Sherline. Hi, Lori. Hi, Lori. Erica, Mindy. Oh, Mindy Freeman. Show your picture. I'm so glad you're here. Marilyn's on and Jody Leavenworth. Let's see how we're doing. All right, I'm going to check time. So like 3 more minutes, and we'll see who else is jumping on. So this is great. Hi, Allie. Allie, hi. Okay, this is great. Let's see. Cheryl and Becky are on. Let me see. Because people jump in the waiting room and I have to make sure I see them.
Mom and Dad, you look great.
They do look great.
Keep your faces showing. Don't go anywhere.
They're muted.
Yeah.
Oh, the mother, yeah.
Are you told them how to unmute themselves? Or can we unmute them if they don't?
Oh, you know what?
No,
Let
I'm
me,
Ah, yes, we
okay,
can hear
I
you.
just unmuted myself. Or
Yay.
we're so glad you're here. Thank you for joining us today.
thank you.
You have a lot of fans. You
Well, we'll let them keep fanning.
exactly. It's so great. And Ari, you too. We love you in the show. You're so great.
Thank you.
Yeah, everyone. Yeah. Okay, so let me just see if any, and so before we start, I'm going to tell everyone, if you have any questions, please type it in the chat. And when Jeanette stops speaking a little bit, we're going to do an introduction and then we're going to do some questions with her. But please don't hesitate to type your questions in the chat. And then we will go through the questions after. And again, we really appreciate everybody joining us today. There's so many important things we're going to talk about, and this is so meaningful. So let's see, I'm going to check my chat one more time, and then I think we're going to start in a second. So Jeanette, before I'm going to spotlight you.
Oh.
There you are.
Wow.
There you are.
Good thing my son has his lights up.
Yeah.
Otherwise I'd be in the dark.
Yeah. So if anybody has any issues, just text me in the chat and then we're going to start. Okay. So I put you in the spotlight and I'll watch the waiting room as we do this. Okay. So welcome everybody. Join Jeanette Jennings from South Florida, the proud mom of 4 children, including transgender activist Jazz. Jazz was diagnosed with gender dysphoria at age 3 and socially transitioned to female at age 5. This was in 2005, when there was very little known about transgender children. Jeanette and her husband, Greg, decided to share their story on 2020 with Barbara Walters. Since then, Jeanette's been a fierce advocate for transgender youth. The family is currently featured or has just finished their 6th season of the documentary series, I Am Jazz. Jeanette is co-founder of the Transkids Purple Rainbow Foundation. She spreads her message of unconditional love through social media and speaking engagement nationally. And before I have Jeanette start, I want to thank Jeanette. Jeanette is a dear friend, a sorority sister of mine and many others on the call. We were sorority sisters in SDT at Syracuse University in the 1980s. And we shared so many wonderful times and memories, as well as being in the house together, living in the house together, and sharing college sorority times. So thank you, Jeanette. And here is Jeanette.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I tend to talk with my hands a lot, so I'm going to try to put them down because in Zooms they're distracting. So putting my hands down as much as I can. So I'm going to give you a little background because many of you may not know me or just know us from the show, and I wanted to talk about how I got here today. So if we put up picture number 1 is a photo of myself and my husband. We grew up in the same hometown. So Beth, you see the photo there?
Hold on one sec. Oh, hold on.
Oh,
Oh, geez. Wait 1 second.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second. Here you go. Oh, wait. Yeah.
There we are. Okay. So that is my husband, Greg, and my mom's in the red there. And there I am. And we grew up around the corner from one another. He used to play with my brother, and he never asked me to play. I guess, you know, back then that wasn't a thing. But he did say they had a crush on me, and he would go to synagogue and see me sitting there, but never came up and said anything. You know, I was the girl next door, you know, nice Jewish girl, nice Jewish boy, but we never connected until I went to an engagement party for his brother who was marrying one of my friends. I went to their engagement party, and he looked at me and I looked at him, and we knew we were going to be together forever. So picture number 2 is from our wedding. We got married in 1993 in Tarrytown, New York. So here we come. We're coming to my wedding. Da, 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 da. Many, many years ago. So very much in love, very happy, and we wanted to start a family. So in 1995, our daughter Ari was born, and that is picture number 3. I was breastfeeding then. Woof, I think you can tell, but we won't look at it. So we were very happy, unit of 3. And before I knew it, I was pregnant with my twins who came into the picture and had colic. So here's picture number 4. Well, those are the twins without the colic, but picture number 4 is colic, and picture number 5 is them. The screaming. You see the 2 babies screaming and Ari in the middle? That was us for a little while, but then, Mom, I can hear you. They were all in diapers, you remember well. And we thought we were done. We, you know, wrapped up shop. I had trouble getting pregnant earlier. I had used fertility medicine with all 3 of these kids. But so I thought I was done. And then one day I felt very sick. I'm like, oh, I have a stomach flu, but it didn't go away. And sure enough, I did a pregnancy test and I found out that I was pregnant with baby Jazz. And I'm like, geez, I'm going to have 3 kids under the age of 5. How am I going to do this? And very early on, I started to show. And with Ari, my oldest daughter, I got very big. And with the twins, I did not get that big. And I was carrying 2 babies that was all front babies. So they say, you know, if you're bigger all over, it's a girl. If not, it's a boy, you know, if you're just in the front. So I did the old wives' tale circle test. You take your wedding ring and you hold it over your belly. And if it's a circle, it's a boy. And if it's back and forth, a line, it's a girl. And for Jazz, it was swinging back and forth. I'm like, I'm having another girl. Oh my goodness. However, when I went for the ultrasound, they said I was having a boy, and I was shocked. I'm like, I'm carrying like a girl, but I'm like, so much for the old wives' tales. And back in 2000, we were happy to welcome baby Jazz, and that's picture number 6 you see there. The twins were 2, and Ari had just turned 5, and that was our baby Jazz. And I thought at the time that I had a son, but I soon realized that I had a daughter. Jazz in picture number 7 is 15 months old. There she is, wearing stilettos that she stole from her sister, those little plastic dress-up shoes, and she is teething, and she's wearing a diaper, and she already was saying or acting like a girl when she had her speech came in right around that time. You know, she was like, I'm a girl, I'm a girl, I'm a girl. And I'm like, you know, you might like girly things, but you're not a girl. And she insisted. She was insistent, persistent, and consistent, which are 3 things that transgender youth show at an early age. They insist, that they are the opposite gender from which they were assigned at birth. So here, number 8 is a picture of Jazz constantly wearing girls' clothes. This is at age 2 and 3 and 4. This is what Jazz looked like. We're gonna make that a little bigger. You can see she was always dressed as a girl. And my husband and I, we said, you know what? This is more than a phase. Like, this is just getting stronger. She's insisting she is a girl. I want to find out more about this. And I have a master's degree in clinical counseling. So I pulled out the DSM, which is a diagnostic manual for actually mental disorders, which I hate to say, but it was in there. And I looked up something called gender identity disorder, which is now called gender dysphoria. And it says there, if the child meets 4 out of the 5 markers, they have gender identity disorder. And she hit all 5. And at that point, you know, that feeling when you're just, your throat goes into your stomach. And I'm like, my kid has gender identity disorder. You don't want to hear the word disorder next to your child's name. And we went to get help, and they confirmed what I had already found out, that at age 3, Jazz was diagnosed with gender identity disorder, which is being transgender. And I knew nothing about this world. And my husband and I said, we're going to find out everything we can about transgender youth. And it was pretty scary at the time. We found out that about half of kids like Jazz will attempt to take their lives before they are adults. And we weren't going to play around with those statistics. We knew we would love and embrace her no matter what gender she was. And at the age of 5, she transitioned. But you can put up picture 9 of her. 3-year-old Jazz, there she is, before her transition. And there she is a year after her transition at 6. So basically, when a child transitions socially, they grow their hair out, they change their pronoun from he to she, and they start wearing the clothing they want all the time. And that's who we had, was sweet little Jazz. And when it was time for her to start kindergarten, I went to the school ahead of time and I said, you know, I have a transgender child. They had no idea what I was talking about. You know, this was in 2006. So it wasn't really spoken about. And I said, I want to enroll her as a girl. And they basically just didn't, they ignored me. So my husband and I went to the press in a local newspaper. We didn't show our faces. We didn't use our real names, but we wanted to put pressure on the school. And it worked. They said, you know what, Jazz can come to our school. She can't use the bathrooms. You know, God forbid she goes into, you know, the girls' restroom, and you can't wear all the clothing you want, but we'll allow her to come, and she has to use her birth name. She can't go by the name of Jazz. So in the meantime, that article that we did was picked up in Manhattan by the Village Voice. And sure enough, ABC News read it, and they wanted to do a piece on us. And we said, absolutely not. We are not going on national television. And they said, you know, there's no transgender kids in the media. We don't hear about this. And these kids have a rough time, and we need to learn more. And after 10 months, we said, okay, we will do this piece. And I have to say, it was one of the smartest things we ever did, because after that, so many more kids felt comfortable being visible and coming out to their kids, and parents were more accepting. And we felt that we did the right thing, and we were done with media. Oprah, Tyra, Montel, all those people, they wanted to put Jazz on their couch. I'm like, I'm not putting a 6-year-old on a couch in front of an audience. I'm just not going to do that. So we occasionally would do media. We did Australia and Sweden, just to bring awareness in other countries, but we didn't want Jazz to be like the 6-year-old poster child for transgender youth. Then a few years later, when she was 11, we did a revisit with Barbara Walters. I don't know if I mentioned that when we did do the 2020 piece, Barbara Walters was the only one we wanted to work with. She has the integrity we needed. And my husband said, we will do this piece if it's with Barbara. Another incredible decision made by my husband, because people, you know, hold her dear in a dear place of acceptance. So back when Jazz was 11, we did a revisit of that. And the next thing I know, we were doing a documentary for Oprah's Own. And while we were filming that, Jazz hit puberty. And a lot of people ask about that. Well, how does Jazz look so feminine? You know, how does she not develop hair and an Adam's apple? And we put her on something called puberty blockers, which made it possible for her not to go through male puberty, no secondary male characteristics at all. But she was upset because she wasn't going through female puberty either. All her friends were, you know, budding, and she wasn't. So a year later, she went on estrogen. and started to develop as a little girl alongside her peers. Around that time, I think it was a few years later when Jazz was 14, a production company said to us, please, can we share your story on a higher level, bigger platform on TLC? And we were very nervous about that. How would that be? There's no, reality show or docuseries about a transgender youth. We were going to be the first, but we realized the importance of visibility. To me, visibility is the key. Without visibility, where would we all be with so many topics, including being transgender? And we felt it was so important to open hearts and minds, which we've been doing. And so here we are today now in picture number 10, last photo of our family today. Beth, that is the last one. Taken on my birthday, which was a few weeks ago. There we are. Da, 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 da. So they're the twins, all hairy, Jazz not, my sweet Ari, and my husband Greg, who I adore very dearly. And that's us. So Beth and I are going to go into a conversation now and do some questions. And I'm all yours. I really am open to answering anything. My life has been an open book as it is, so I don't have too many secrets.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that, because that also gives us a different perspective than the show. We did talk about, which we'll just talk about briefly. The show discusses things starting, you said, at age 11 going forward. We don't really talk about the younger years, which that's the way TLC started that. And you just finished your 6th season. Tell us, we know that Jazz is a chosen name. What, not her birth name. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, Jazz's birth name is Jaron, Jaron, which to this day, if you call her Jaron, she doesn't mind. She actually still likes the name, but when she was younger, she didn't want to use that name. And her sister, who she adores, Ari, was in the play Aladdin, and she was Princess Jasmine. And Jazz was just like enthralled at the age of 4. She said, I want to be like Ari. So when we said, what name would you prefer to be called? She said Jasmine. And we're like, well, how about Jazz for short? And she liked that, and it stuck. Although at school, they wouldn't let her be called Jazz until 6th grade, but that was the name that she chose for herself.
It's fantastic. And when we talk about Jazz, Jazz says right now she's pansexual. Can you tell us and educate us on the difference between pansexual and bisexual?
Okay. There is a fine line there, and I'm speaking, from what people have told me. Bisexuality, people like men and women, but when you're pansexual, you're attracted to like everybody, like transgender, non-binary, but it's more of a spiritual journey. You find your attraction from the heart of somebody. And so it's a little different than bisexuality. So Jazz really is drawn to people more about the type of person they are than what their genitalia look like and their pronouns or anything.
That's great. Well, I'm sure there'll be other questions about that. So let's go back to the show for a minute.
Okay.
How did you feel of having all the cameras and them follow you? And I know I was a fan for all the seasons. How did that make you feel? How did Ari feel, the boys feel? Because they really got into your life at some really sensitive times.
Yeah. At first we were really nervous. We didn't know what we were getting into, but I have to say, it's not what everybody thinks it is. Like, we're not the Kardashians, or no glitz and glamour here. We film 5 days a week for the most part, unless we're behind schedule, we go to 6 days a week. My kids were younger. They were all minors when we started. So there are child protection laws, I guess, for working minors. So there were set hours, like, we're going to film this time to this time. And so a lot of times there was nobody there. There's no cameras hidden like Big Brother around the house. It's pretty set up in terms of, these are the hours we're going to film. The kids are home from school. Let's break out the cameras. But when the crew was there, they were very present. There could be like 15 to 20 people at my house all day long, definitely on the weekends, because Greg was home from work when we film on the weekends. And, you have to learn. You have to know the crew and get to learn who they are. And we loved our crew. I think that made all the difference in the world, was loving the people that you work with. Our executive producer to this day is a dear friend. And the importance of getting along with the crew is paramount because they are in your house. They're eating their meals there. Our house becomes their house. And if you're the type of person who doesn't like people in their house, Mom, you would not want that. Love you, Mom, but like that, it's not for everybody. So
We got you, but good.
But they were in the house.
they were in the house a lot. So and Ari, my oldest daughter, she's not quite into it as much, but she's a good sport. And the twins, oh, they love the cameras, you know, can't get enough camera time. Sandra and Griffin, they are hams. And so it's been a big adjustment, but sometimes it's annoying. You just don't want them there. And other times you're like, you know, I like these people and I'm happy to have them in my home.
That's wonderful. So I see your parents are on. Tell us a little bit before we introduce them, how it was that you had to explain what you were doing to your mom and how you guys were part of this and how you got them involved in the show.
Well, actually, it was the producers. For whatever reason, when they first came to us, they thought my parents lived with us. I don't know why. And they thought, oh, this would be great. You know, all these people under one roof with this transgender youth. What a great story. And then they found out they didn't live with us. But when they interviewed them for what's called a sizzle reel, talked to them a little bit, they're like, they are fantastic. We want them on the show as well. I mean, yeah, everybody loves Jack and Jackie. And they've added another dimension and generation to our show that makes it so important. And my dad even speaks to JCCs. Maybe I'll want him to speak one day about our experience. And they really have embraced it as well. And everybody loves them, the crew, everybody. And I love having them on the show.
So I'll introduce them now. These are Jeanette's parents. I'm going to spotlight them for a minute, Jack and Jackie, and we're really thrilled that you're here from South Florida. Can you share with us, I know you said you speak a lot to JCCs, and tell us how you felt about this when the producers asked if you would get involved in this and how you told your friends what you were doing and told your generation about your beautiful granddaughter.
Jack, you want to begin?
I'm fine. I'll let you finish. I'll just put a small, what my feelings were. Having been in medicine for 40 years as a retired radiologist, I felt obligated to completely inform myself. Fortunately, we had the internet that had started, and it was very easy to pursue the whole transgender issue. I had never really paid any attention to the diagnostic manual of mental disorders, if that's what it's called. I don't even like to think of jazz as having a disorder. So I agree with that title. I think jazz is part of a spectrum. And we took jazz under our wing in the sense as grandparents, as being totally accepted, accepting her, no challenges there. What was amazing about Jazz is she was just not a transgender person. She was a very bright, intelligent, phenomenal personality unto her own. She was not just transgender. We don't want to think of Jazz as just being transgender. Jazz is Jazz. She's special. She graduated valedictorian of her class. She's extremely bright. She puts us all to shame, and I was pretty up there myself, but she left me far, far behind. So I'm not going to say much more. I'll let Jackie talk. I was just amazed by the whole transgender phenomenon. And of course, we had the internet at that time, and I pursued it as far as we could go. And we're just grateful that we have the Jazz that we have. I couldn't think of her being other than what she is.
And picking up with that line, I think today I don't look at jazz and say transgender. That has dissipated out with all the many years that we've been through, the experiences that Jeanette has explained, and that and more. So she is jazz. She's a phenomenon. We love all of them. We love them dearly, all the children. We're a family. We've become more of a family with this experience. It has united us. I can't say as one, we're not, we're many personalities, but we're there. She is our granddaughter, has been our granddaughter, always will be our granddaughter. And a lot of loving, and we have learned, I speak for Jack now, the meaning of love as we've traveled through these many years and all these experiences. TLC, when they came, NIM Jazz, was certainly new to us. We're not performers, we're not trained actors. We expressed ourselves and joined in because that's what we do. In fact, this evening we're heading off to the family, over to the house, to have dinner with whoever is there. And this was the route that we learned. And it wasn't a hard learn. It was put out there. We backed it. We experienced things. We're still experiencing things. But the transgender part, to me, has taken more of a backseat. And the gal, Jazz, our granddaughter, is who she is. And she's a phenomenon to all of us. Sometimes I stand by and my mouth will hang open. With another talent, another ability, painting, drawing, everything is done. That is done by her, is done to perfection. And it's amazing. It's really, I'll say, how do you do this? How do you stand up in front of 1,000 people and you're not nervous? Huh? Doesn't bother me. I said, I'd be, wetting my pants if I had to stand up in front of 1,000 people. I get it. Well, I'm sitting. And extolling the virtues, and we feel blessed with everything and every move and all the ups and downs without measuring. We are blessed. We're family. They made a movie years ago, and the song was "We Are Family," coming right out of Miami, and that's how we feel about it.
It's wonderful. I thank you for sharing. Can you just share with us, Jackie, about your friends? Do they ask you questions? Do you feel that you're educating them? Because your generation is a bit different than our generation.
It falls into a few categories. We have friends who will follow closely, and when it's on late at night, either speak to me that night or the next morning and comment on things, and they are on. We have friends who, in my heart of hearts, don't think they're really too enthralled with the whole thing, with the TV idea, maybe transgendered. I'm not going to break it down any further. I've never truly embraced that they have embraced the idea. We share, we tell, not a lot. I'm not out to preach. When something's going on or we are filming, I'll say we can't make it for so-and-so because we're filming. Older people are older people, and often they're not receptive. They've got their thoughts, they've got their ideas, whatever's going on. It would be best if it were kept quiet. And quiet we're not. And even within the family, generally speaking, the family's been wonderful, but I suspect hither, those not quite fully involved or want to know about as we do. And I guess that's a person's right. What can I say? Friends that don't watch at all will ask or listen, but they don't turn the TV on to watch the show, friends and family. So we are very overwhelmed when strangers come up to us in the market, or I'm out buying a pair of shoes, or Jack's getting the car fixed. Oh, you're Jazz's grandparents. Wow, how is she? What's going on? How you doing? And we've gotten such a worldwide reaction from people that we see and sometimes run into a second time than people we've known all our lives. So it's a very mixed bag. And just because you are related does not necessarily mean you're accepted.
Thank you. I appreciate your honesty. And we're really thrilled that you can be here. Jeanette, we're going to go back to you for a minute, and then we certainly, anyone that has a question, please type it in the chat. We're open to so many questions. Jeanette, so tell us about Howard Stern, because I think that's really interesting how Howard Stern talks about how much he loves you and the show, because there's a lot of people that love Howard Stern.
Yeah, I don't know how it happened or why it happened, and I'm in disbelief, but Howard Stern follows the show. I found this out because I had a bunch of people that love him texting me, emailing me, calling me. You know, you're on Howard Stern. He's talking about the show. And then the producers of I Am Jazz caught wind of it. And so we started listening, and some of it it's very vulgar, how he is, but he's just like, I love jazz and I support her and I support her parents, and I wish my parents were like that. And then he kind of pretends he's his parents and goes into this whole spiel. But in terms of me, he talks about my wardrobe, which really is kind of bizarre. And he says, why does she wear those shirts with the shoulders that are revealed all the time? Like, why does she wear that? And Robin, his sidekick's like, well, they're called cold shoulder shirts, and the shoulders are supposed to be very sexy. And I feel like telling him that's because I don't like my arms, and it's my only way of showing my arms. But I'm listening to Howard Stern just talk about me and my family, and very intimate parts as well, which I won't get into because he loves to talk about vaginas and penises. So you can only imagine, but it's just bizarre listening to this guy I've known for a long time. And he watches I'm Jazz, and he's very supportive of transgender people, which is great to hear because his fans are hearing a positive take on.
That is fantastic. I mean, and I'm sure you do giggle when you hear him talk and about your wardrobe, and there's nothing that's off limits to him, but you're a good sport. Can we jump into talking about Jazz's surgery? Because that was really highlighted on the show. And if anybody didn't see that, tell us how that came about. She wanted the surgery, how that went for you. That was some really tough times too.
Yeah. It was really challenging because we were filming, and Jazz wasn't ever 100% sure she was going to have the surgery. She always was like, I probably will, but she never committed. And when she did say 100% she wanted to have the surgery, we were actually filming. I'm like, we're doing this. Yeah, we're doing this. And we weren't sure like how long we would be filming. Would we still be on air when it was time for the surgery? But they wanted to follow us through the whole entire process from beginning to end. And Jazz was very open and very honest about it. And her situation was a little different because she didn't go through male puberty. She didn't have as much material down there as adult transgender people. So they had to do a special surgery, which is a whole nother story, which made it more complicated. And she ran into some issues, but shared all of that on national television, the good, the bad. And she was just the bravest person I know when she had something go wrong and had to face this with the cameras on as well. I just marveled at her. I'm like, Jazz, I'm so proud of you that you're sharing this. And a lot of transgender people do not want to talk about the surgery, and they have every right to keep that private. And even now, you have to be very careful if you're speaking to somebody who's transgender. You just don't want to be like, hey, how are you? Did you have the surgery? That's up to them if they want to share. And I respect those who don't, but we put it all out there on the national TV, and the entire process was there for everyone to see. And it was quite dramatic, but for us, it was even more so, as you can imagine. Seeing Jazz have a hard time, but then seeing the light at the end of the tunnel when she was thrilled at the end to be the woman that she's always wanted to be and knew that she was. She just didn't have all the body parts till after the surgery.
Yeah, it was very emotional just watching it too. And there was so many struggles, ups and downs, but in the end, she was just thrilled. So tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing, the advocacy work that you're doing, and also advice for anybody that has a transgender child or knows a friend or, people in their community, and tell us a little about what you're doing now.
Okay, well, back in 2007, when we first went public, we decided we would start a foundation. It's called the Transkids Purple Rainbow Foundation. And we just wanted to share our visibility sort of as a platform to help other people. So people would see Jazz, they come to the website, donate money, and I would take that money and spread it to others that needed help, whether it's a homeless youth or another organization that runs a camp and wants to have a scholarship for kids that can't afford the camp transgender youth. So we've been doing this for quite some time now. I also am a huge advocate for the trans community, specifically trans youth. I traveled across the country to speak. And right now, I'm sure you've heard a lot in the news that's been going on with states that are banning healthcare for transgender youth. I've been fighting that fight in our state, as well as banning trans youth from sports. which is just horrible. Our state is trying to make it so anybody that was like Jazz, whether you're in kindergarten or actually pre-K, all the way up to college, if your birth certificate doesn't say you're a male, a female, whatever, you know what I'm saying, you can't play in that sport. But I told them, which they didn't know, these politicians, I'm like, you can change your birth certificate now. So how are you going to prove who is a male and who's a female? And I'm speaking one-on-one with politicians, Zooming with them like every other day. And, you know, I'm like, are you going to do genital checks? And they didn't say no. Like it's really ugly what they're doing to trans youth who are one of the most marginalized population of kids. They are bullied in school. They are harassed and physically assaulted just for being who they are. They are the bravest souls I know. And to take this group of kids and say, not only are you being bullied and all these things happening to you, now we're not going to let you play sports or get the medical treatment that you desperately need. Like if Jazz hadn't had the blockers, she would look like her brothers right now. Like that medical care is life-saving. This is life or death. And you have people, politicians that are playing Russian roulette with children's lives. So I've been speaking out a lot on this topic and just fighting in our state and helping the nation too. I work with HRC, trying to educate people so that they will not harm these children because they're innocent and they deserve to be treated like every other kid. And I always say, you know, whether you score a touchdown or score a goal or run in a race, what's between your legs doesn't matter. It's what's in your heart. And kids deserve to have that feeling of teamwork and camaraderie. And you learn important lessons about leadership by playing sports. And it's come down to a very ugly place. So I'm going to fight that fight forever. I'm not going to stop.
It's so important. So how could you tell us, anybody, how could we be a good ally to the transgender community?
Just spread the word. Like if you have friends that are transgender, learn from them because they know best, and then tell other people that they might have this wrong or that wrong. Educate others about what you know. Turn people on to media, whether it's our show or something else. You'll send them an article, send them a news story about what's going on. And just basically love your transgender friends, because to me, transgender people are the greatest people I've ever met in my life. They're working two sides of their brain. I don't know how they do it, but all transgender people to me are brilliant and creative, talented, and large-hearted, and just so brave. And if you can tell one person, like I met a transgender person or I heard about a transgender person today, this is what they're really like, and they're just like everybody else, and love them, because you know what, anybody that has a transgender person in their life is really truly blessed. And I just think it's important for everybody, just word of mouth. If you don't see it on TV, just talk to people and tell your trans friends, you know, I'm here for you if you ever need anything. I got your back.
That's so interesting, because before we started, Risa Schaefer's on, who's a college professor, and she said it was so interesting. It's important to talk to your students that are transgender and not make them feel like outcasts, and other people that are in your community, the Jewish community, people that your classmates are your children. And we need to educate ourselves to realize they're just like everybody else. And we need to be there for one another, whether we're in the Jewish community, whether you're in your LGBTQ community, but everyone should be together.
Yeah, and march in the parades too. Go to see behind me, I've got the flags. Like if you have a trans pride month in your hometown, which you will, because every June is, go to the parade, wave your flag, show your support for all those people out there that just would embrace the love that you give. That's
fantastic. I mean, it's so important. So tell us a little bit. You said Ari's on, so we see Ari's on. The boys are busy doing their thing. I mean, we've seen them on the show, and one of them just got accepted to law school, right?
Yeah, he's in his first year now. So
yeah, so fantastic.
Anyway.
Yeah, and tell us, how's Jazz? How was it growing up in South Florida, high school? I mean, she had a lot of tough moments. I mean, I remember the show with the prom, different things. So share with us a little bit about some of those things that were different than the other kids, what they went through in high school.
Yeah, I mean, everything seemed to be a little bit harder for Jazz, sometimes a lot harder. You know, dating has never been an easy thing, although she did have her first boyfriend a few years ago. But just the acceptance in school, you know, she always have to like prove herself that she wasn't just the transgender girl, that she had talents like everybody else. And she's very self-assured, which isn't always the case with all transgender people. She's very comfortable in her own skin. She knows who she is. And, you know, she had situations where she's been excluded or bullied by adults, I call it. Like in elementary school, for instance, she wasn't allowed to use the bathrooms. She was told she could use the nurse's restroom, and she would hold her bladder to the point where she would have accidents because she wasn't allowed to use the girls' restroom. And she's been called an it. She's been called a freak. She would hang out with her girlfriends in middle school, which is really hard. That's a hard time. And, you know, the boys would come up to all the girls and flirt with them and hug them, and they would just act like Jazz wasn't even there. She's been through some tough times, as you can imagine, but she is very resilient, and she uses those hard times to parlay it into something strong where she's there for other people. She loves helping other people by sharing her story. And, you know, it has not been an easy road. It's tough for a lot of trans kids, although I have to say it's better now than it was when she was growing up, because there were fewer of the trans kids out. So people didn't know what I was talking about. Like I'd introduced her to somebody and they're like, oh, you know, I heard she's transgendered or transsexual. What does that mean? And I was always glad to answer questions, but I always got this question like, has she had the surgery? I'm like, she's 8 years old. You know, I have to explain, like, the children, you know, have to be past puberty before they have the surgery. And just, we're always educating all the time. And she's been very gracious with her time and opening up her world, which is not an easy thing when your world sometimes is tough enough as it is.
Yeah, we've seen that. And, you know, the nice thing about the series is that you can watch and be there for your family, but you also see some really, really hard times, which, you know, it for me, when I watch, because I'm your friend, it's a little bit different than if I didn't know you, but it's very, in some ways, like, astonishing how mean some people can be.
Yeah, I was saying adults, and I didn't mention this, back to the sports. Jazz was actually banned from playing girls soccer from the time from she was 8 until 11. So it was like 2.5 years where she could play in the practices, but for the game she was benched. Imagine like telling this little girl who's already bullied at school, now you can't even play sports with your friends. You can play with the boys, which she tried, but she was traumatized. Literally, like, she would stand on the field and not move, and we'd have to escort her off the field, and she'd be crying, and like, that's not what she wanted to do. So I just thought I'd add that in there, just as another thing you don't see on TV, that she went through this whole ordeal. But we've had some good moments too. I think I wrote in the questions, I did want to share this because it's a little change of heart. She was asked to be on Oprah's, not the Oprah show, but the one she has now, where she does a Soul for the Heart, I don't know. And she went on there, and that was just, you know, to me, I've always looked up to her, and for her to say, you know, Jazz, I want to talk to you. I want to see you on my show and speak to you. And I always laugh. I like to tell this story because I wasn't asked to be on the show. It was just Jazz. I was so excited to meet Oprah that when I met her, I gave her such a hug, and she was like this, like, who is this strange woman? And Jazz always laughed. She's like, Mom, you buried your face in Oprah's breast. Like, what are you doing? And I was just like, you know, you've given me these opportunities that I wouldn't have had otherwise, you know, to meet incredible people. And I thank you for that. And she was invited to the White House when the White House used to have gatherings for Pride back in the Obama era. Like, they would invite transgender people once a year to come to the White House. And he actually requested to meet Jazz, and he told her that he was proud of her. And I was like, literally in tears. Like, so she's made a difference in so many positive ways and opened up doors that I never thought I would be meeting a president or Oprah or anybody. You know, I don't even like being on TV, but so there's been so many crowning, beautiful moments that you don't see on the show that have entered our lives and, you know, enriched us in ways that we never thought we could. You know, meeting a president was just a president that I respected very much. So our last one, we weren't invited to the White House for that.
What was that?
Yeah, they stopped doing that back anyway. I won't get into politics.
Okay, so there was a question, did Jazz start Harvard? And tell us about the situation with college and having a roommate. And
Well, she was going to start, and then she took a leave of absence actually, because she felt like with the show, she needed to catch her breath, and she was having some mental health issues and really just wanted to recover and breathe. So she never started that year. And then the pandemic hit, and she's like, I don't want to start college during the pandemic, because Harvard was one of the strictest places. Like they said, only the freshmen could come up. You can only have a single room. You're in quarantine, no classes whatsoever. And we decided as a family, that's just no way to start a freshman year. So we're crossing our fingers, because now Harvard is saying the campuses are open, and in August we should be dropping her off. All goes according to plan. Like, so you know, she's a little delayed in starting college, but at this point I'm ready to be an empty nester. It's time. The time has come.
That's super exciting. So that was a whole process too for her to figure out where she was going. You want to
Yeah,
share a little
on
bit?
TV they made it a little bit more than it was. Like
Oh, did
they have to amp things up, but you know, once she got into Harvard, she kind of knew she was going to go, and you know, she just had visited this other school. Once she saw the campus at Harvard, she saw all these LGBT people there, and she just felt like it was a good fit for her. And it was a decision to make, but to, you know, in the end, it was no decision. Like she loved it there, and she wants to live in Boston.
That's really, really fun for her too, to be able to be in her element and meet people. And I'm sure she'll be a fierce advocate on campus. Tell us a little bit about your family, what you guys like to do in your spare time.
Well, during the pandemic, we all got to hang out with each other a lot, because Ari's getting her master's degree, and she was at home with us because all her classes went online. Sandra was in an online program. Griffin was taking some time off in between, like undergrad and law school. So we quarantined together, and Ari's boyfriend was with us a lot too. I didn't get to see my parents like I would have wanted to, but we were like 7 under one roof, and there were some great times. We like to watch old movies. We like to play board games, just be with each other. You know, I could always have a full house and be really happy. And we, you know, you see a lot of what we do on the show. We like to go to amusement parks, just like everybody else, you know, do a lot of advocacy, a lot of LGBT events, but otherwise we're just your typical family.
And I'll touch upon that. So for anyone that watches, Jeanette and I talked, they don't talk about where you live exactly, and that's on purpose. Right, Jeanette, it's South Florida, and your last name is Jeanette Jennings.
My last name is Jeanette Jennings. I live in South Florida, and I leave it at that because it's for privacy, but it's also for safety. We get death threats, and we've talked about that on the show. There are people out there to this day that say horrible, mean things. They've found our phone at times, and for safety, we just feel, you know, we have cameras all over the outside of the house, but we don't want anybody getting to us, making it any easier, even though a lot of these people hide behind their computers. The hate that they have towards us is unbelievable. Cruelest things you can imagine. So that's why we do that.
Which is really smart. There was a question, which we knew that was coming. Are you still filming, or what's going on with the series?
Well, I'm not allowed to talk about it, but there's a good chance there might be a season 7. We're not filming right now. During the pandemic, everything was shut down. We weren't even ready here. Our family was not ready, but there could be something. Stay tuned. That's what I say. Stay tuned. We will see.
Oh, and well, we did talk about, if anyone wants to watch, you can watch on Discovery Plus, right?
Discovery Plus, TLC, Hulu was showing it for a while, but Discovery has a streaming service. So people watch 90 Day Fiance on that, and they can watch I Am Jazz and all the other programs that Discovery has. So
Exactly.
Anytime you want, there we are.
That's good. Okay, so tell us, there was a question, what are the groups out there to support or be involved in the transgender community? Are there certain groups that you'd recommend people join, Facebook groups? Are there places to call? How can we support this community?
Well, if you are doing it as an ally, I think that question is talking about like how we can support. Like I said, you know, go to events, the LGBT events, get involved in your own community, find out what your community needs, go to your local LGBT center, go to your local PFLAG. That's a really good organization, PFLAG, or even find out about national organizations that help, like Trevor helps trans youth that are in distress or suicidal. See, organizations could always use volunteers. So some of the big ones are PFLAG and Trevor. There's HRC, which really is involved. And I know there are a whole bunch of other organizations I'm forgetting about, but they can always use volunteers, help, or people to spread the word. But really in your own backyard, there's always something in a hometown where you can lend a hand, whether it's help them get ready for a parade or just, be a friendly neighbor. There's always work to be done.
And the key is to get involved. And shy, I guess, call the organizations, tell them you want to get involved, and spread the word amongst your friends.
Absolutely. Just keep talking, keep saying wonderful things. And, it's like that commercial. I know you're my age group, like you tell two friends and they tell two friends, a Pantene, I think it was, or one of those hair commercials. And it was like little boxes like this, and you tell two friends and they tell two friends, and they go so on and so on. And I just think of that, all these little faces of people spreading the word about how amazing the trans community is, how amazing the LGBTQ plus community is. And allies are the best. My son, Jeanette Jennings, on TikTok, you can go find him. He is like the ally of allies. Like, he loves being an ally, and he will talk about it. So if you track him down and you tell him that you know me, he will spend time talking to you about all the things that you can do, because he's become quite an expert on that. Not the expert, but still learning, but he can tell you a lot more than I can about being a wonderful ally.
That's really important. I did ask you the other day, I said, how is it when you go out? Do people recognize you? Do you feel that your privacy is infringed? I mean, because even though you live in South Florida, there are fans, and you could go to a restaurant, although you see friends. Do you get recognized, or does Jazz get recognized?
Jazz gets recognized the most, as you can imagine. I'm not even sure how people are recognizing her during the pandemic. She has a mask on, and she gets recognized, and I get recognized. I wear glasses a lot and a mask, and I have my hair up, and people are like, oh, are you Jazz Jennings' mom? And I've had women come up to me hugging and kissing me, and I'm like, do I know this person in real life? Did I forget who they were? But the fans are wonderful. Like, I would, if I see somebody like who's on TV, I'm afraid. I'm like, I'm not going to go up to them. But there are people there that are like, can we have a selfie? Like, Jazz loves when somebody says, I'm a fan of the show and you've helped, as opposed to, hey, can I just have a selfie? Most people want a selfie anyway. But I am most touched about when other parents come up to me and said, if it weren't for the show, I don't think my son or daughter would be alive right now. And that's what means the world is to me, is knowing that just by sharing our story, we are saving lives. And when those people come up to me, we end up crying on top of each other. But yeah, Jazz, it's hard for her to go to airports and malls. Like, sometimes she's got to put her hair up and put sunglasses on. Otherwise she'd miss a plane or wouldn't get to shop.
Right.
Are we going to get to go to Bed Bath and Body Works or not? Like, here we are at the mall. So, and my parents get recognized more than I do, because they're out and about more than I do. And my dad's white hair and my mom's beautiful hair. Like, you guys are like a magnet for fans of the show, right? Yeah.
They get noticed. Exactly. I got a question on a text, and you did mention this to me offline, that there isn't really discussion of Judaism on the show. The question was asked, how did the Jewish community in South Florida accept you, accept your family? Did she go to religious school? Was she able to have a bat mitzvah? How did you face this with the Jewish community?
Well, all of my kids went to preschool at synagogues. So that's, right from the beginning, they knew their heritage. We are, proud Jewish family. My parents are from another generation. Many of our ancestors were lost in the Holocaust. And I've always wanted to instill that in my children, a strong upbringing. However, in preschool, when Jazz went to preschool, when she started to transition. And it all depends on the person you get. The head of the preschool, she wasn't as welcoming and as inviting, but the rabbi at the time sat me down, and I'll never forget, he looked me in the eye and he goes, tell me all I need to know about transgender, which I thought was great. Jazz was like 4 or 5 at the time, and I was happy to speak to him. And then another rabbi came into the temple, and he was very open and discussing it. We've been embraced by the community. We're not as involved now that the kids are older. The older children had bat mitzvahs and b'nai mitzvahs. Jazz did not, because she went to Hebrew school and kindergarten. There were a lot of kids there from her preschool, and she went to kindergarten. When she went to Hebrew school, she presented as a girl, whereas when she was in pre-K, she presented as a boy. Some of the boys were really mean to her, and she said, I don't want to go back to Hebrew school anymore. They're mean to me there, and I didn't want to force her into that situation. So she didn't end up having her bat mitzvah, but the other kids did. I'm always like very proud of them. And I'm proud of who we are as a Jewish family. And we don't mention it on the show because of the hate. We already have so much hate geared towards us. We didn't want to even make it harder on Jazz and the family. It's terrible. It's terrible what people say when they find out that we're Jewish. They just are like, they align the two. It's ugly. So we kind of just step back from it, but we were never like embarrassed or ashamed of our religion, not at all, ever. But we were just, it was safety again, always first.
Well, I could tell you we greatly appreciate your honesty. And, there's so much that we heard today that we wouldn't hear on the show. Again, there's things like we talked about offline, Jeanette, that they ask you, when they're filming, and there's things that you can talk about with a small audience, just like when your mom and dad or your dad speaks to the JCC, he's going to get questions that you're not going to discuss. Coming from the JCC, which I work for, and I think it's so important though that you are a Jewish family, and you've been there for the Jewish families, and you're happy to talk to anybody. Jazz has been there for so many people. You and Greg show your life that you're a typical family. Mm-hmm. This is just a facet. I love how your dad and mom said they don't really look at Jazz right now. She's the transgender. She's Jazz. She's just another kid in your family. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, she's just another kid, although now she's 20, so she's another young lady. But yeah, she's just like everybody else. Just always said she was a girl. She insisted, and she was right. At the age of 2, teething, she knew who she was and never wavered, ever.
So I would love to share. I'm going to have you share with me, about your activism on an email. I could forward the trans websites if anyone has any further questions and how to get involved. But they can follow the show. They can follow Facebook, right? There's tons of groups, Instagram, like you said, the boys. I mean, there's so much that.
There is a group on Facebook. It's Parents of Transgender Children on Facebook. So if you know somebody who's struggling, they have a trans kid, they can go to that Facebook group. You have to be vetted to join to make sure that you're not like a creepy person, because there are those out there that just, once again, hiding behind their computer. But it's helped a lot of people because you have about 8,000 members of that group, and it's for parents and caretakers of trans youth. So I think it's a wonderful group if somebody who's struggling, to definitely hook them into that group.
Yes, and your unwavering support, I just got a message, allows you to really be so supportive, but there are the families that are not supportive of their children, which I'm sure really saddens, and it's very tough to see.
Yeah, disheartening. But I've talked to quite a few of them. You have to just say, I've said to people before, would you rather have, a living daughter than a dead son? And I know that's really harsh, but with the statistics of attempted suicide, you don't want to mess around with this. And, I know it's very serious, and they look at it differently when I say that. They really think about that. So I didn't mean to end off on a note like that, but yeah, these children deserve the love that surrounds them and deserve to be embraced. And when I hear about kids getting kicked out of the house, I just want to go to those houses and knock on their door and be like, you know what, you don't want them, I'll take your kid. Because kids are kids, and they all deserve to be happy.
And you said it's educating them. you're laying it out there for them and telling them this is what it is. I'll just tell you, I noticed when you guys do speaking engagements, I saw when you did the book tour on Jazz's book, people line up to meet Jazz, and that's also a great way. If you see an event where you're going to be in the city, I know you were in Philly and Jazz, to go to the events if there's trans events, which would be so wonderful. Someone let me just tell you, we did get one of our guests that's joined us today says her granddaughter could express herself at age 3 and has never wavered. She's a talented, beautiful young girl. So and I think it's amazing. And the person that wrote it is a dear friend on, and again, accepted her granddaughter. But it's a matter, I give her and your parents and that generation, you have to give them so much courage to do it, because in that generation, it's hard to learn, it's hard to understand. And any of them, I think it's wonderful your parents educate so many people too.
They do. Very proud of them.
It's incredible. And I do love them on the show. I will tell them that. I think they have a lot of fans, and their mother always has her hair done beautifully, which is great. She's adorable. And listen, I think it does open the door to different generations to have them on the show, like we said. Being in South Florida and they're there, and I think it's great. So I think the show touches upon so many precious moments. They're sad, but there's so many happy and joyous moments.
Definitely. We love each other, and that's what it comes down to. My mother said it earlier. It comes down to love. It's a child's birthright to be loved, and that's it. You love them no matter what. If your parents aren't going to love you, who's going to love you? So spread that love out there, everybody. Show that you're an ally. Really important. Keep it up.
Fabulous. So Jeanette, I thank you. It was a fantastic hour. I thank you for spending time with us. You're busy. Everyone's got a lot going on, but it was also really, really special and important to do this. We love seeing pictures of your family that we don't see on the show. And Ari, thank you for being here, and thank helping Mom get on, because we had some technical difficulties, so Ari helped us. And I thank your parents, Jeanette and Jackie and Jack, for being on. And Jeanette, thank you for being you. And we look forward to seeing if there's another season, and just sharing Jazz with us. And we listen, for the pandemic's been so difficult for so many. We wish Jazz only success at Harvard. We'll be looking forward to seeing how she's doing. But you have a sorority sister and dear friend, Sandy, on, who's in Boston, who's on right now. So I know she would love to be there. As sorority sisters, we're always there for each other, for the good and the bad. And it's always nice for any of our kids going to college that you could always call a friend. So I know Sandy will be a rock for you if you need anything in Boston, just as we've all been there. And it's like you said, doesn't make a difference. Transgender, kid, daughter, boyfriend, we're all there for each other, and sorority sisters for life.
Yeah.
So thank you. Sorority sisters have a bond, and our Syracuse days, although they were a long time ago, they feel like yesterday. We all sat around the house and had our pledge classes and the pledge masters on, and Randy's there, and we had a lot of great times. So if it wasn't for Syracuse and SDT, we wouldn't have ever met. So
I'm glad we all did. I'm glad we all did. And doing this too. We'll have to do a Zoom sorority Zoom.
Exactly. We're all blessed to know you, Jeanette, though. You were, we all know you as a special Jeanette as our sister, but you really are an inspiration to so many people. You really are.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you having me.
Oh my God.
Every minute. I've enjoyed being here. Thank
We
you.
loved having you and your family. And again, your parents, God willing, you stay well and healthy. And like I said, it's so great because they're just who they are on the show. No one's an actor or an actress.
Definitely not.
Oh, no.
So, and we love your cold shoulder tops, Jeanette. I understand why you wear them.
People ask me where I get them from, so I guess they must like them, but
You know what? You're who you
that's what Howard Stern thinks, right?
exactly. But the fact that Howard Stern talks about you, I would go with that. I think it's great.
Yeah, as long as I don't have to be on his show, I'm okay.
Exactly. All right. So we wish everybody health and happiness. And if anyone wants to get in touch with anything that Jeanette works on, I will send the links. And again, thank you.
Thanks
And we
again.
appreciate having you.
Have a great Sunday.
All
See you
right.
later, Mom and Dad. See you later. Bye.
Yeah, see you later, honey. Bye.
Share your good weather to the rest of us. Enjoy your Sunday.
Take care.
All right, honey. I'll see you soon.